Here now is Stone Phillips.
It's one of the Bible's 7 deadly sins, and most of us have felt it at one time or another. Envy. Tonight we take a close look at an uncomfortable truth that we're most likely to envy, not the rich and famous, but the people closest to us, our friends. The question is, why? Here's John Hockenberry.
Brains, you can't live without yours, and as it turns out, we all have quite a bit of trouble living with our brains. Sure, they make possible all of our grand egghead technology, our great music, the coordination to precisely hit a golf ball, to give us the feelings of love. But the brain's emotional toolkit contains some pretty ugly objects, too. Like the emotions of envy and jealousy. Envy is not always easy to spot. Take the Kelly twins. Mark and Scott have competed against each other since they were kids, on the track team, for girls' affections, and now in their careers. A few years back, when both were fighter pilots, they applied for the same job, to become space shuttle astronauts. Incredibly, they both were selected. But when it came time to send someone up in space, one brother was chosen over the other.
It would have been better if I was the first pilot to fly, but he's not. But I'm not.
The brothers say there are no hard feelings. Well, that could be, but psychologists tell a very different story of what's going on up in the brain. They say if someone close to you wants the same thing as you do, and they get it and you don't, chances are you'll have deep and uncontrollable feelings of envy, where the brain triggers you to do things to actually sabotage that person close to you. In fact, as you'll soon see, there's a test for envy, and the results may surprise you as much as they surprised some people who thought they were friends.
If there is a way in which I can outdo you, or I can prevent you from outdoing me, and I can do it in a way that lets me feel comfortable about myself, I might take that opportunity.
Abraham Tesser, listen to him. He's one of the top research psychologists on the subject of envy. A professor at the University of Georgia, he's an expert on the darker corners of the mind.
Why do people feel so guilty when they have feelings of envy?
Envy is one of the 7 deadly sins in the Bible. We're not proud of those feelings because sometimes they can lead to destructive behavior.
Envy, wanting what someone else has. It's all in your head, but it's that pit in your stomach. All those feelings that seem closer to the heart.
To understand just how overwhelming the emotion of envy can be, Professor Tesser needed to design an experiment that would show when people's envy of their friends start to make them behave more like enemies. So he came up with a game that he repeated for Dateline's hidden cameras.
We want you to relax and enjoy this exercise.
University of Georgia students thought they signed up for a psychological study on friendship. They even had to bring one friend with them. But this was really a test for envy.
In just a minute, we're going to ask the 4 of you to participate in a verbal skills exercise.
The game is like password. From a list of 10 words, 3 people seated in the back of 3 booths are asked to choose a word they think will best help the person in the first booth guess a word.
The first clue is punch.
Drink.
That's not correct.
The students are told the words at the top of their suggested clue list are the easiest clues. The ones at the bottom, the least helpful, with number 10 being the hardest.
The next clue is sand.
But this game is fixed.
Desert.
No, that's not correct. Clue 3, please.
The moderator is purposely giving the subject in the first booth tough clues so he'll do poorly and be embarrassed in front of his friend and the other students.
Again, using this formula, it indicates that you also scored below average.
Then they change seats, and this is where the science starts. The demoralized subject now has to decide how helpful he'll be to the others when it's his turn to give the clues. When it came to helping total strangers, most of the subjects gave the easier, helpful hints.
The third clue is dirt.
Soil.
Soil is correct.
But would they do the same for their own friend?
Did the results surprise you in the original experiment?
They did. From a commonsensical point of view, you would think that people would be kindest to their friends.
Look at the clue the subject offers to his friend for the word tree. His choices include oak or pine, but he chooses poplar, number 7. On the word strike, he could give clues such as hit or punch, but he chooses number 9, afflict. Did envy play a part in the types of clues he gave to his friend?
I thought that if I chose the harder word, that he would guess the correct word because he's got a really good vocabulary.
Perhaps that's true, and he wasn't trying to undermine his friend at all. In fact, we heard that kind of response numerous times from different students, that they picked a clue even if it was listed as a harder one because they know their friend and how they think and thought that clue would be most helpful. But Professor Tesser put some really unusual clues on the list.
You put some real Lulus in some of these lists.
Yes, sir.
Words that, even though they appear on a list of clues, no one in their right mind would use them as an assistance to anyone else.
It seems like, to the extent they're choosing this for the other person, it doesn't seem like they're trying to make the other person do well on this task.
Take a look at what happens with this student. He's already been told he performed poorly on the test. What will happen when it's his turn to give clues to his friend? Will he try to help or stick it to him?
Were you thinking, you know, I'm going to really help Jason out here, or well, I'm going to be darn sure that Jason gets out of here with a below average too?
Well, I think kind of not really helping him out, but not really, going after him.
For the word late, the subject's list of clue choices include tardy and overdue, but he chooses moratory.
You chose as the very first clue to give to your friend Jason the word moratory.
I chose moratory?
Yeah, the number 10, it's right here, moratory. That was what you chose for Jason to say. Like, now, do you know what moratory means?
I have no clue.
You have no clue.
He's giving clues that he doesn't even know the meanings of. Is this proof of sabotage motivated by envy?
As a human being, it's very difficult to avoid feeling a threat to self-esteem, feeling envy.
So if you're looking for people who are envious to the point where they might sabotage you, don't look far away, look close.
That's where we feel that emotion most strongly.
So were you giving harder clues to Jason or harder clues to the strangers?
I bet harder clues to Jason.
Yeah, I bet you're right. It looks like he went out of his way to stab you in the back.
And it happened again with this male student and his female friend.
First, I'd like to
He
know-
went first.
These results indicate that you scored below average on this task.
When it was his turn to give a clue for the word cold, he goes straight to the bottom
It's going to
and
be the
circles
identifier
number
for this
10,
round.
impotent.
Panel.
Given a different clue by the moderator, the woman does well and gets the word on the second try.
Cold.
Cold is correct. Yes.
For the next word, walk,
Okay, for this
look
round,
at the
it's
first clue to his friend,
Clue 3, please.
saunter.
What feeling did you have, especially knowing that your friend Kate was going to be in the same seat?
I was embarrassed. I was feeling insecure about my poor performance on the test.
Indeed, on the word plant, he gives as his very first clue, verdure.
Verdure. Do you know the meaning of the word verdure?
No, I-
V-E-R-D-U-R-E? Under any circumstances, would you expect that Kate would be able to get the word plant from the word verdure?
I didn't want Kate to get it on the first try.
Not all of the students gave harder clues to their friends compared to the other strangers playing in the game, but overall, Professor Tesser says his results show most people didn't help their chums.
Over 75% of the sessions we ran resulted in subjects providing more difficult clues for their friend than for the stranger.
Professor Tesser says based on his research, if two people who are close have the same goal, one of them, for the peace of the relationship, has to give.
When two people are involved in a situation where envy comes between them, there's really only two things you can do. Reduce the significance of the goal you're envious of, or reduce the significance of the relationship.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Thanks, Professor. That's tough to deal with up there in the brain. We can do the sour grapes routine, I didn't want it anyway, or just ditch our friends.
Does this test give you insights about how friendship works, how people work, or the way your friend Jared here makes decisions?
Yeah, I didn't think he was going to give me hard words. I'm a bit surprised.
Perhaps Kate and Jared learned there's some scientific basis for the corny phrase, you only hurt the ones you love. We can only hope they're still friends.
If you're wondering who tends to be more envious, men or women, Professor Tesser says overall the test showed both sexes scored about the same.
And now here's Matt Lauer with a look at what's coming up tomorrow on Today. Matt?